Hello everyone and welcome back to Say It. You know that Say It is our online arts monologue competition which has seen arts actors step up and take on monologues. We've gone from contemporary over to British, over to comedies, and this week they've taken on villains. Now, it is almost time for you to check out how the contestants have done in your favourite online monologue competition. But before we do that, have a look at what the coaches thought about what challenges this week would bring. So here is our behind the scenes views on the challenges of Villains Week.
Okay, so can we talk about week 4? Is it week 4?
Yeah.
Which I think has got to be one of my favourite choices that we've made, which is Villains Week. Mm-hmm. And there's so many amazing villains. And Claire, I've got to say, I'm looking at your team now and thinking, like, are we envious? Because we talked about my team last week as a comedy week, and I was quite smug in my little group. But I look at them and I think, there's not a villain amongst them here. My lot are all much more kind of... So your group, I think...
I'm feeling very smug. I think my group, I mean, she won't mind me saying, I spoke to Ava's mum about the sort of challenges of Comedy Week and how when it came to something more serious, all of the kids in my team, they can do the moody, serious, evil, and I think there's going to be some fabulous characters to be picked. And actually, you know, people think I'm happy, clappy Claire, but I love a villain. I can't wait.
You love a villain.
Yes.
So are you more on the big fantasy villain, or is it the more subtle kind of evilness underneath?
That's what I'm going to find really interested actually talking with my team about, because obviously there is your big caricature villains and then there's the very subtle, evil, slightly scary villains. So actually seeing how they feel about it, where their preferences lie, and then the characters I find and pitch to them as well, it's going to be really interesting.
I think that point as well, it lends in the favour of the fact that we've just done Comedy Week, because often I think the caricature villains are comedic or in some way humorous, so there is an opportunity for someone who's done a comedy monologue which is maybe more sitcom and slightly more straight acting to pick up a bigger, larger than life kind of villain if they were to choose to this week.
But I feel like with my group, you know, I think the more of an easier choice. A lot of them would probably gravitate more naturally towards one of these big, you know, someone like a Scar, or you know, someone who is evil but is not the evil. So I wonder which of my group are gonna take a real different approach to this and go something a little bit more, you know, really serious rather than one of these comedy characters.
Do you think it's harder or potentially more challenging to win the audience over when the character is more well known, like a Scar or an Ursula?
I think it's probably easier to win. I personally think it's easier to win the audience over, but the danger of doing something that's so, you know, well known is that you naturally are going to be compared to it. So I feel like it's a good starting point. You know, and as well, you know, the other thing is doing one of these villains where they don't say a lot. That is hard to do in a monologue, and it's very bold and brave to do in a monologue. So I'm going to be interested to see that kind of like, you know, that arc of choices that people make. Are they going all up, or are they doing something on either side?
Maybe take a risk.
So yeah, I think Villains Week is one where we're going to see. And everyone's growing in experience and
and I'd hope in this week that the experience plays into, for my team, the monologue selection process, because what I found in Comedy Week was, because it was maybe such an unexplored genre to just do something that is comedy, the monologues changed about 50 times depending on the person. So I'd be interested to see whether this week we can go into it with, right, got the monologue, we're sticking with it, and turning it into something rather than changing the choice.
Yeah.
Agreed. Let's see who is the art's biggest villain of the week.
Resident bad guy.
Absolutely, Mike.
So that may have been what we thought, but it's time to see whether our theories came true. Have a look then at the first team in the competition. It's of course the phenomenal Team Claire.
Peter Pan! If I could find his hideout, I would trap him in his bed. But where is it? Miming Lagoon? No, we searched that. Cannibal Cove? Here? No, that's Indian territory. Wait, those redskins know that I'm better than I know my ship. But I wonder. I've got it! Tiger Lily! You know how I stayed alive this long? All these years? Fear. The spectacle of fearsome acts. Somebody steals from me. I cut off his hands. He offends me. I cut out his tongue. He rises up against me. I cut off his head, stick it on a pike, raise it up high so all on the streets can see. That's what preserves the order of things. Fear. Hello, little man cub. Oh no, don't be scared. I won't hurt you. Trouble? There's no trouble. Are you alone here? That's not good. You should never be alone. I can stay with you until he gets here. Would that be alright? I'll keep you safe. Just you and me. Sweet dreams.
Yes, hurry home, princess. We wouldn't want you to miss old Daddy's celebration now, would we? Celebration indeed. You know, back in my day, we had fantastical feasts when I lived in the palace. Now look at me, wasted away to practically nothing. Banished, exiled, and practically starving, while him and his flimsy fish folks celebrate. Well, I will give them something to celebrate soon enough.
I'm telling everyone you ran back into that towering inferno to save me. Not that hideous family portrait you love so much. And that what happened at Fort Hill was a terrible, tragic accident. And if you tell anyone the truth about what happened at the fire, I'll tell everyone about what really happened in the barn with Daddy. You were cruel to me, Mother. It's abuse. Plain and simple. So hereforth, if you breathe, it's because I give you the air. And if you drink, it's because I pour the cup myself. And if you move, it is quietly. And with my blessings. Things are going to be different now, Mommy. Better. You'll see.
Hello, brothers. I hope you enjoyed the little show I put on for you. It has been a hoot watching you take on the devil. Why did you think he wanted you? Because I wanted you. Duh. It really is the perfect revenge. At 10 p.m., Mystic Falls will burn. Precious Elena will burn. And I'm guessing one of you Salvatores will go down with her. Should I place my bets now?
Hey, so, who's got the knife? Who gets to kill the elusive Catherine Pierce once and for all? What, suddenly everyone's speechless? You all had a lot to say when I was on my deathbed. Is it you, Tyler? Because I triggered your werewolf curse, gave you an identity, made you matter? Oh please, Tyler, if I hadn't walked into your life, you'd still be a wasted nobody with a boozy mom and a temper problem. Damon, I never got to say what I need to say to you. I'm sorry that you blame me for who you are. I'm sorry that I turned you. I'm sorry that you didn't get to die as a forgotten nobody in a bloody battlefield, and your father didn't get to live another day to be disgraced by you. Damon, I'm sorry that I gave your life purpose, passion, drive, desire. I'm sorry that you are who you are because I'm the one who taught you how to love.
You can't get rid of me that easily. Who does the ungrateful little worm think he is? Does he have any idea who he's dealing with? How could he do this to me? Why, I practically raised him. That's it. I'll get rid of Cusco. Don't you see? It's perfect. With him out of the way and no heir to the throne, why, I'll rule the entire empire. But how shall I do it? Oh, I know. I'll turn him into a flea. A harmless little flea. And I'll put that flea inside of a box, and then I'll put that box inside of another box, and then I'll mail the box to myself. And then when it arrives, I'll smash it with a hammer. Oh, it's brilliant. Brilliant, I tell you, brilliant. Genius, I add. Oh, to save on postage, I could just poison him with this.
You've got to agree, Team Claire is pulling no punches and they're doing everything they can to win over the coaches and the guest coaches. There's another team that I know of that is doing that very same thing though, and that is none other than the brilliant Team Joe. Have a look at how my team got on this week in the competition. After a challenging week last week, my team are back better than ever for Villains Week. They're here to do what they do best, so sit back, relax, and be truly terrified by the wonderful Team Joe.
There are children in here. I can smell them. My nose is never wrong. I can smell their blood. And when I find them, you'll be making your last ever toy. My nose must have been mistaken. There's no children here. Lollipops, cherry pie, cream puffs, ice cream, all free. Twinkle tart, all free. Come along, Kitty Winkles. Ha! Gotcha.
Know what you need, Cheryl, because I know who you are. You would rather people fear than like you. So, you traffic in terror and intimidation. You're rich, so you've never been held accountable. But I'm living proof that certainty, that entitlement that you wear in your head like a crown, it won't last. Eventually, there will be a reckoning. And maybe that reckoning is now. And maybe, just maybe, that reckoning is me. Betty and I come as a matching set. You want one, you'll take us both. You wanted fire? Sorry, Cheryl Bombshell, but my specialty's ice.
Sisters, did you hear what he called you? Whatever shall we do with him? No. Book, darling, come to Mummy. Yes, his punishment must be more fulsome, more lingering. Dazzle me, my darling. Let's see. Anisa, Bunyan's Geoblade, Cholera. We can do better than that, I think. Ah, yes. Perfect. As usual. His punishment shall not be to die, but to live forever with his guilt. Jump back. Twist the bones and bend them back. Trim him of his baby fat. Give him fur as black as black. Just like this.
You shouldn't just stay
too bad. I did like you. Of course, I'm not gonna kill you. He is. Hello? Police? This is Savage Fox at the Natural History Museum. Officer Hobbs is down. Please, hurry. But he can't help it, can he? Since Preds are biologically predisposed to be savages. Oh my gosh, think of the headline. Hero cop killed by Savage Fox. Pretty much. Fear always works. And I will dark every predator in Zootopia to keep it that way. Bye-bye, Bunny.
Bruce Bogtrotter. You liked my cake, didn't you, Bruce? Oh, wonderful, marvellous. That makes me so happy. Gives me a warm glow, my lowering intestines. Oh, cook! What's the matter, Bogtrotter? Lost your appetite? Oh, no, you are not full. I'll tell you when you are full. And I said a criminal like you are not full until you've eaten the entire cake. Now eat. Eat. He should have thought of that before he made me a pact with Satan and decided to steal my cake. Now eat. Eat. Eat.
Life's not fair, is it? You see, I shall never be king, and you shall never see another day again. Adieu. Oh, now looks as you maybe lose my lunch. That was today. Oh, I feel simply awful. Must have slipped my mind. I was first in line until that little hairball was born. Oh, I shall practice my curtsy. Temper, I wouldn't dream of challenging you. Well, I've got the lion's share of the brains, but when it comes to brute strength, I'm afraid I'm at the shallow end of the gene pool.
Swear to me. Make the unbreakable vow. It's just empty words! You'll give it your best effort. But when it comes to it, you'll go slithering into your hole. Coward. Will you, Severus Snape, watch over Draco Malfoy as he attempts to fulfill the Dark Lord's wishes? And will you, to the best of your ability, protect him from harm? And if Draco should fail, will you perform the deed the Dark Lord has ordered Draco to do?
I prepare for the noble wall. I'm calm. I know the secret. I know what's coming, and I know no one can stop me, including myself. I kill people I like. Some of them bear with their lives. I don't feel sad. I don't feel anything. It's a filthy world we live in. It's a filthy goddamn helpless world, and honestly, I feel like I'm helping to take them somewhere away from all the shit and the piss and the vomit that runs through the streets. I'm hoping to take them somewhere clean and kind. But, you know, there's something about all that blood. I drown in it. You know, the Indians said that spirits live in the blood, and so once a month, ceremonially, they would cut themselves to let the spirits go free. And I think there's something really smart about that, very smart, and I like that. Think I'm crazy?
I know I'm a little bit biased, but I am extremely proud of the brilliant entries from Team Joe and all of the hard work that they put in, not just this week, but every single week. There's another coach I know of though who's just as proud of his team, and that's Mark. So check out the brilliant, wonderful entries from the formidable Team Mark.
Hey everyone, and welcome to week 4 of our Say It competition, where this week we delved into the murky world of villains. I have to say that Team Mark again has been fantastic. Some really good choices, some comedy, some psychological thriller, some really dark pieces as well, which has been a challenge for my group. But again, they've been excellent. A little bit of bad news from Team Mark. We have had to say goodbye this week to little Joel, who has sadly dropped out of our competition. And like so many of our students, Joel struggling a little bit with the online content and very keen to get back to the centre, surrounded by his friends and doing the thing that we all love. So well done to Joel for the contribution that he's made. So yeah, I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands of our villainous Team Mark.
You think you're so... Firm up! 1 second. You think you're so clever, don't you? You think you outsmarted the great, infamous Dr. Von Hamsterville? Well, you made one great mistake, you oh so adorable, cute Hawaiian girl. You brought to me subject 626. I will now clone him and make my own entire personal army! Ha 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 ha!
Do you want to know how I got these scars? Well, my father was a drinker and a fiend. And one day, he goes off crazier than usual. Mommy gets a kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that. Not one bit. Me watching, he takes the knife over to her, laughing whilst he does it. Why so serious? Turns at me with the knife, and why so serious? He comes at me with the knife, sticks a blade inside of my mouth. Let's put a smile on that face. And why so serious?
You are going to die. Does this worry you? Please, don't be afraid. I'm nothing if not fair. I could introduce myself properly, but it is not really necessary. You will know who I am. Well enough and soon enough. It suffices to say that at some point in life, I will be stood over you. Your soul will be in my arms. Please, be calm. Despite this previous threat, I'm a bluster. I'm not violent. I'm not malicious. I am a result.
We have been wronged by this alliance, this horde of Dennis, Patricia, and the boy. Their actions do not represent us. They are... Everybody, just take a minute. Oh, baby girl. They may have stolen a life from inside me, but the group are gonna work through this. Honey, my name is Barry. You shouldn't have used the walkie-talkie. Look at you, you're so frightened of us. Dennis and Miss Patricia are in charge because of me. I'm gonna get the light to them now. No one's allowed to make fun of me anymore. Thank you, Hedwig. No, don't be frightened. Kevin is asleep. Far away from here, so you can call his name all you like, dear, but he's not going to hear you.
I found the gun. Congrats, Spencer. You figured it out. I had to get you out here alone so we could talk. We had to earn this. The right to be a part of this. And we're in it together now. I admire you, Spencer. And that's why you decide how this ends tonight. It's easier to forgive an enemy than to forgive a friend. You're not the only genius in this car. You bitches underestimated me. I am so over Allie. She was never my friend, but Hannah was. And you took her from me. It's not about betrayal, Spencer. It's about revenge. You deserved everything you got. You stole my only friend.
What have we here? Something sparkly, something shiny. Wait a minute. It's a human. What are you doing here in the realm against the Just pick an eye. I can't concentrate. Just pick an eye. You're an odd-looking one, aren't you? Stop. Get off. It's my grandma's. I ate my grandma. And it took me a week because she was so ginormous. Are you trying to make me talk about myself? 'Cause if you are, I'll gladly do so.
And with Team Mark, that wraps up this week in the competition. Guys, it's been brilliant to see so many people take on these freaky, scary, sinister villains and every type of villain you could imagine. But who were our favourites? Well, let's check out our coaches' highlights of the week. Have a watch.
So here we are, Villains Week, done and dusted. Can't believe how quick that week went. Some really impressive videos, I think, this week from across the board. But I want to hear what you thought about my team. I was really excited for these tapes to come in, and I don't think I was disappointed. So, Joe, let's start with you.
Well, from your team, I think we are in a great position, and the people watching at home are in a great position to see people progress from week to week. And the person who I think, looking at where we're at now, has done that the most, and is my shout out of the week from you, is Maddie Barker-Gastel. I think, first of all, the fact that she's certainly the youngest person in the competition, and is
by a long way,
and is not only consistently sending in videos, but she's consistently getting better at the videos. This week, I thought in particular, her ability to change her voice to match the emotion that the character was feeling was just spot on. So I absolutely loved Maddie's this week and thought she smashed it.
I think we're seeing more content from Maddie now, so their pieces are getting longer and more confident, and it's great. What about you, Mark?
Okay, so I felt with your week, we laughed and joked last week about Comedy Week being maybe not as much of a fit for your group, and I felt looking at Villains Week that your group was in such a good position for this week, and I wasn't wrong. There were some great pieces, but I think for me the other end of the scale, for someone with very little experience in Little Maddie, all the way through to Rosa, who I thought this week particularly was outstanding. So, and the reason for that is, I think there's a danger with Rosa or with anybody, is when you pick a character that is that has so very is iconic and has so many kind of things that they do that is quite unique to that person. The danger is that you try to do an impersonation of the character. And I think that the danger with an impersonation is that it leaves very little room for creative choices, for any individuality, or for any kind of decisions that you can make to try to evolve it. And I think Rosa, although there was a lot of the Yzma character in there was also some new ideas, I think, that Rosa kind of brought to it. So she has great composure, great control. Her diction is perfect. I love Rosa's brilliant at using her body. One of the best students that we've got for using her physicality. But just that ability to be original, but yet not lose what the character was actually about, I thought was great. So for me, it was Rosa.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so let's move on to Joe, your group. What was their thought on Villains Week?
Well, do you know, going from last week in comparison to Comedy Week, where everything was coming in at different times and then getting taken back and being resent and changed and new monologues and go back to old monologues and people swapping monologues, this week was so much more of a straightforward kind of process in terms of the decisions were made really quick, and I think that created a load of room to work on the pieces. So I don't think going into it I'd have expected my team to be as well suited to this theme as they were. I certainly didn't think it would work against their favour, but I thought so many people in my team this week just massively went above the bar for me. I absolutely loved it. So Claire, who out of mine stood out for you?
So I actually want to talk about someone who, building on the point that Mark just made about how you have to be really careful when you're sort of stepping into the land of impersonation. I want to talk about Molly, because actually with the character that she picked, I think the odds were absolutely stacked against her in a way, because Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix Lestrange is, she's such an iconic actress. The way that she performs on screen is so unique. But actually, the point I want to make about Molly and what I thought was so well executed was her attention to detail throughout the whole piece, because she had big shoes to fill. Obviously, everyone has got this very iconic character in their head of who Bellatrix is, but actually, Molly managed through her execution of how she had her hair, her makeup, her accent, her physicality. I feel like she just played to her own strengths to really bring that character to life. When actually, she set herself up to be compared to Helena Bonham Carter, but I think she did such a solid depiction, great characterization, and just commercially, it was brilliant to watch.
And a little bit of a behind the scenes on Molly this week is that she was very mindful, I think, of not mugging it off. And we had a conversation around how does she do the piece as an homage to all that source material. She's not denying that it's been completely inspired from that version, but performing with respects to that rather than plagiaristically.
But with all that in mind, I think she did a fabulous job.
I think as well, though, we talk about, although I called Rosa out for not doing an impersonation, I think the point about, there's been so many iconic characters, and I don't mean fantasy characters in that case, but I mean people who depict people of the past, and they have to do, and we talked about Eddie Redmayne being Stephen Hawking and actually going in really into detail about every little tiny little thing. Molly's done that brilliantly for that particular role, albeit it's not a character that is actually someone that did exist, but she's actually looked in great detail and been able to do that. So which was a triumph massively. Yeah. But I want to talk about another member of your group, and I think that I've been for many years been a critic of some of the work that he's done, or mainly some of the the way that he's been. But I just thought this week was just a huge triumph, which was Badger. So For me, as soon as I seen Trunch on the list of ideas coming in for Badger, I thought immediately the danger is that a character like that is going to be massively overindulged. So it's going to be overdone to the point of it becomes far too funny to watch rather than being menacing to watch and a bit unhinged, which is what Trunch is. But I just thought, you know, the way he handled it, the accent, even the way he framed the video, the pace and the control, full commitment as well, like to the character and the facial expression. It was like, I thought he was excellent. I really did. You know, and there was a nice kind of contrast between the menacing side and then when he's like, Cook, you know, and yeah, it's not easy to do. Very easy to mug it off. Very easy to overindulge and lose all of the context. But he didn't do any of those things. And I thought, yet again, actually, he was very, very good.
I think with Badger as well this week, the new realm of going into monologues, that feeling of being unsure of the process is probably wearing off for him like it is so many of them. So then it leaves room for the experience to just naturally fill the gaps and lead him to where he needs to go performance-wise.
Yeah, I think that can be said, I think, for like you say, all of them. Everyone now, the content is just so much stronger and much more complete. Okay, so my group last week, we were into comedy, this week into villains. And I think villains are a good topic because you can either go dark and sinister or comedy villains. And I thought a lot of my group were going to go quite comedy, and some of them ended up doing some really bold choices in other areas. But what was your thought, Claire? Who was your standout from my group?
So I want to make a point about Izzy. I thought for the past few weeks now, and certainly in the singing competition as well, Izzy brings this like unbelievably creative flair to her direction and her production of her pieces, and I think this week particularly where she's you know this villain from Lilo and Stitch, and then she mentions the Project 626, and then the camera cuts to the cat, and you know it's just a really creative out of the box like idea, and we've seen that in lots of Izzy's videos. You know, she really thinks about those editing skills and the production skills, and whilst that isn't necessarily relevant for all of our students to be making those really creative choices with some of the characters that they've picked, it's really worked for Izzy, and I've just really enjoyed seeing how she's developed and really thought about that side of her performance as much as the character that she's delivering. So I just think what she's been doing there has been really enhancing her scenes and creating, you know, so much comedy. Just a fab job.
And it was another good choice, wasn't it? It was she's a little kid, a little person with a huge personality, in the same way that Dr. Hamsterville is exactly that. So no, it was a great. I love the use of the cat.
Yeah.
So
I hope the cat is called Stitch. If not, it should be.
Or it might be called 626. I don't know. Okay, Joe. Finally, what was your thoughts on my group?
So I thought there was a real range in yours. There was going from the likes of Megan, who did fulfil that comedy kind of monologue role for villains, but then for me, the other side of that is where I found Ben's piece to be this really sinister, serious role. Another one which is arguably quite iconic as well, so a big one to take on. But I think for me, in the last 3 rounds, there's been parts of Ben's that I've liked, but maybe all the components haven't all sat together in 1 week. 1 week I've really liked lighting, another time I've liked the facials, and another time I've liked the voice. Whereas I just thought everything lined up for him this week to a point where it was easy to not look too deeply on what he's doing technically, and instead it just allowed for a load of room of how it feels watching it. And watching it, I thought, oh, this is like, it makes you feel really quite uncomfortable, which I think is absolutely the intention of the monologue. So for me, Ben's week this week was, in my eyes, by far his best one and the strongest, I think, out of all of them that I've seen in all 3 teams, personally.
Yeah, and when he said to me, you know, the Joker, I was a bit unsure, because I thought Ben, you know, is he? We recognise him always in more comedy roles, but again, like so many of them this week, and the different sort of themes have allowed students to explore different genres, which has been really, really interesting.
And I think that it would be so easy for him to have gotten the genre muddled this week and done the makeup and done something with his hair and made it all very like when you try too hard to be funny and it all suddenly becomes all a bit unintentional. I think he could have very easily gone tried too hard to be creepy, and it becomes very misses the mark, which I absolutely don't think he did.
It goes back to that interpretation versus imitation, doesn't it? And I think it was a really solid interpretation.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we coaches thought, but you know that there's still one more person that we want to check in with, and that's our guest coach. Now, this week we're joined by another phenomenal industry pro. He's someone that contestants may have seen on the audition panel, but he's certainly someone that's always a busy guy. He is the Dean of Alra North Drama School, and in Alra North, he is the head of the Master's Degree Programme for Directing Theatre. It's the wonderful Chris Hill with his views on what he thinks of our contestants for Say It. Check it out.
Hello, my name's Chris Hill. I am the Dean at the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts, and I've been looking at all of your selections for this Villains Week. And firstly, I want to say thank you so much, because they represent such an incredible amount of work from everybody. I think it's really easy to think about these lockdown COVID-19 times as really limiting in terms of creativity, but what these videos really show us is that that's just absolutely not the case with you guys, so thank you very much. I have three things that I think I want to just talk a little bit about, and the first one is just to congratulate everybody on such a broad set of choices. There are so many different characters, so many different sort of types of villains, so many different pieces that you're all drawing from, which really allows for so many different approaches, and I would just really encourage you to watch each other's work. There's such a great breadth of stuff in what you've produced, and also to keep thinking about what you're watching, keep thinking about different characters, because it's a way of sort of you enriching your performances and creativities to think about lots of different roles that you might want to portray. So real congratulations there, and I would just say keep going with all of that. The second thing I want to talk about is just how we think about working with a camera. And I think it's quite easy to, and it's totally fine if you sort of set the camera up and then move back and then you do your performance, that's fine. But I think one of the things that I saw in pieces that I really connected with is that people were really using the camera. They knew where it was, they knew it was the audience, and they were talking to it and using distance and proximity from the camera to really affect their work. And it really helps to aid that sense of characterization, which is really effective, and especially when we're thinking about villains, because they're so rich in detail. If you really think about the audience is the lens of the camera, wherever that is, that can really help to add to your performance, because it's the way in which we're viewing it. And the third thing I want to say is to just think about movement and think about the body. So I'm sitting on a chair at the moment, which means that if I move my hands, that's fine, but the rest of my body is all very still, and you need to think about if that's appropriate for your character. So if I was performing and all you were seeing was my head and shoulders as you are now, that's totally fine. But actually, if the piece is about somebody who's active or something, maybe it's better to lift the camera a little bit to frame up like this, but actually to be stood up, so that actually the whole sense of your body is engaged in what you're doing. And I think don't be frightened as well to allow the character to gesture, to allow the characters different bits of their body to move around. And that I think sometimes what happens is when we know that it's a camera, we just sort of concentrate from sort of our neck upwards, and our head does a lot of acting, but the rest of us doesn't really. So really make sure that you're connecting your body to all of the rest of the great work that you're doing on characters. Again, thank you so much for sharing all of that work, and I really look forward to seeing more of that work in future weeks. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Chris, for giving us some of your time and offering some brilliant feedback on what you thought about our contestants. And we'll see Chris again in the final of the competition, which isn't too far away. We've only got one more round before we reach the final of Say It. Now, the final is going to be a student's choice. Contestants can pick their own monologue from any monologue that exists. But this week is the final frontier, and it's going to see contestants take on Shakespeare. This is the big one. The big last hurdle to overcome before getting yourself into the final. It's a tough one, and that's why our coaches have already been in touch to help contestants find their monologues and start bringing them to life. And over the weekend, that's more of what we're gonna do. So contestants, get busy, get to work, and give it your all. Give it this one last push to get into the final. And for you watching at home, make sure that you tune in to next week's episode on Friday, because it's gonna be the best one yet. Guys, that's pretty much everything from us in the Say It team. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope you have a brilliant weekend, a fantastic week, and we'll see you all really, really soon. Bye-bye.